Joe, it looks like Oscar Piastri has truly developed into a championship caliber driver. Now he's so cool, calm, and collected. It seems like nothing phases him at all, and he has proven that he can perform under any circumstances, regardless of the pressure that's facing him. So, in your opinion, do you think he is becoming the true favorite for this year's championship?
Yes, he has. And like you say, he's so cool, calm, collective. After the Australian Grand Prix, where we saw the two McLarens go off because of the wet weather and the timing of the rain coming down, Oscar Piastri, of course, went in the grass, got stuck, was able to keep the car running. I thought this was going to be the moment where it's like, okay, Oscar Piastri is not at that level yet. It looks like it's still going to be Lando Norris who went on to win the Australian Grand Prix. But then the next few races, Oscar Piastri just getting what he needs to do, getting 3 wins now. I mean, he has risen up to that level, and today having a great start to force the issue with Max Verstappen going toe to toe. And I really thought we were going to see what we've seen in the past with Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, a collision. We did not see that. I think that was good heads up driving by Oscar Piastri, just putting enough pressure, knowing that he had a penalty coming for Verstappen. I just think he is now the man to beat. Lando Norris seems to be falling off the pace. We know the issues with Max Verstappen's car. Ferrari, well, we don't know where they are. I don't think Mercedes could get to that level. This is going to be Oscar Piastri's season. The big thing, you just keep doing what you're doing. Don't let the pressure get to you, because I don't think there's going to be any pressure from within McLaren.
Yeah, it really seems like that. Lando Norris is, kind of taking maybe a small step back, or you can even argue that he stayed exactly where he was, compared to the end of last season. But Oscar Piastri, he's the one who I believe has grown the most as a young driver. And today, like I said, Max Verstappen essentially handed the win to Oscar Piastri right there, turn one, lap one. And I wonder if Max Verstappen is beating himself up, because if he, just given the place back, after that, you wouldn't have got the time, you wouldn't have got the 5 second time penalty, and maybe you would have been within range to pass Piastri on merit there, despite and not get the time penalty. So maybe if Max Verstappen had to do what happened in lap one, turn one all over again, he might consider giving the place to Piastri and then just chasing him down, because he would have definitely been in DRS range, and Max definitely had the pace in that difficult to drive car and could have potentially got up there and challenged Piastri for the win. As I said, it was a track position race, and Piastri, had that clean air, and there was just no coming back from that penalty that Max Verstappen had, because that really ended up being the difference in this all. But definitely don't want to take away from the great day that Oscar Piastri had, and it's just been really nice to see him come along and develop into this true championship caliber driver. And it seems like he's going to be tough to beat throughout the remainder of the year. And Joe, you just mentioned Lando Norris. Of course, he was stuck with an uphill battle all race long, given a 10th place starting position on the grid. Norris crashed in Q3 on Saturday. The team got the car ready. He ended up being the fastest, yet, still missed out on a podium. But Norris still salvaged a fourth place finish, given how difficult, it is to pass around Jeddah once the cars get spread out. Moving up from 10th to 4th, is a lot for him to be proud of in many respects. And if I had to vote for driver of the day, I probably would have chosen him for driver of the day. I have no idea why Max Verstappen was voted driver of the day, but that's a discussion for another day. But looking at Lando Norris, he has one win compared to Piastri's three, and ended up losing the points lead. Joe, is Norris no longer in a position where he can ask for equal treatment from the team? I know we like to talk about those papaya rules.
Yes, when it comes to the papaya rules, this is something where I think Lando Norris could be now being asked, hey, we need you to do this for the better of the team and potentially compromise your race for Oscar Piastri. Piastri, 3 wins, championship point leader, just looking great. This is going to be really hard for Lando because throughout the race weekend, leading up to Q3, he was looking like the fastest one. I think he still has the pace in that car. Piastri is stepping it up against his teammate, and for Lando Norris, he needs to step up from making these errors, making these mistakes, especially when we've got Piastri up front. Whether he's on pole or the front row, you know he's going to be a winning contender. You cannot be in the third row. You cannot be in the back half of the top 10. You do not want to be outside of Q3. A mistake in qualifying at that level would be hugely detrimental to Lando Norris. And I think you're at the point now where if you have Lando Norris Oscar Piastri in the top two rows, they're gonna say, "Hey, we want to make sure Piastri gets that better start. What do we need to do?" And then make sure, okay, Piastri's a priority, then Lando, then maybe they could go race it out. But yeah, it's getting to that point where I feel like Lando, the last couple of weeks, he's sort of lost that competitive edge to Piastri.
Yeah, definitely, Joe. I agree with everything you said. Like I was saying, I think Oscar Piastri is on a different level right now, and Lando Norris, needs to try to catch up to where Piastri's at. I know that's easier said than done though, because it's just a real strange situation with Lando Norris, because for the last season or so, we've been saying that Lando's the guy. Oscar, is still learning. Now it seems like they've completely flip flop with Oscar Piastri. Looking like he's going to be the priority moving forward. While Lando, he might just have to play second fiddles, because it seemed like the team has preferred Lando for the most part. And we saw earlier, just a couple of weeks ago, in Japan, when Oscar like, hey, I'm faster than Lando, let me see if I can go get Max. But they they stayed put, and it seemed like Oscar had the pace that he could have done something about Max, but in that case, Oscar just put his head down and did what's best for the team. Now, if Oscar Piastri goes on this run, and Max, and it's gonna be like him and Verstappen for the championship, and Lando, is gonna be like third or whatever. If there's a position, where Max is running third, Lando's leading and Oscar second, the team might just be like, "I'm sorry, Oscar. I know you want to win this race, but for the better of the team and to extend Oscar's gap over Max, we need to, enact these papaya rules, and we need to have you finish second and let Oscar win the race." That's not something you want to see in Formula One, obviously, but from a business perspective, it's the best thing that the team can possibly do to try to, maximize the points so they can go out there and win the championship. So I think, the next race is the Miami Grand Prix. Lando Norris needs to go out there, and just show up and show out, just like he did last year. Remember, last year was the turning point for Lando Norris, the Miami Grand Prix, the site of his first career Formula One win after coming so close so many times in the past. So I think that if he can remember those beautiful moments from Miami last time around, that he can go out there, and show that he can take the fight to Oscar throughout the rest of the season. Cause I know we see rivals on the track, between different F1 drivers, but there's no rivalry, more intense than the rivalry with your teammate, especially with two number one caliber drivers like Norris and Piastri.